In this presentation, we're going to look at color, some of the basics of color, and how color can affect the effectiveness of our web design. Often when we talk about colors, we talk about colors in terms of temperature. This chart shows that there are warm colors and that there are cool colors. The warm colors there's warm cool colors and cool warm colors. So they kind of intermingle and they mix a little bit. But basically your cool colors are the purples, the blues, and the greens. Your warm colors, you can kind of think of it as what colors appear like in a flame. You have yellows, oranges, and reds. So these are the basics of warm and cool colors. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why this has an effect on people when we talk about emotion. Now there's also a thing called neutral colors. Neutral colors are the gray, such as the background here, and the beiges and the browns. The lighter color, or the colors like that are perhaps also could be referred to as complementary colors that help offset some of the other basic primary colors. Now, from my artist background, we dealt a lot with color wheels and colors and how they fit together and how they mix together. Now, we refer to this as this type of color as sienna, magenta, yellow, and key, or referred to as black. Now, we didn't refer to it that way. We were looking more as the primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue. And then long about 1963, color TV came along and they changed yellow to green. And that was kind of interesting, kind of different. But anyway, as you work with substance and you mix colors together, they combine and become darker. When you work with light, it's referred to as additive. And so as you add light, the colors combine together. If you're using, like in a science lab, and rays of light, the combination of all colors would be white. It almost kind of seems like a gospel principle. It could be a talk, it could be a Sunday school lesson, that as you receive more light, that things become white. And as you have a reduction of light, things become dark. So much for gospel principles, but it is kind of fun to think of it in that type of term, that that there's more going on here than just color, that it might even have some kind of a gospel or eternal plan behind it. So moving right along anyway. So this, like I said, mostly deals with television and computer screens and that type of thing. And then this has more to do with print and how colors will print. At Walgreens, we have an instant print machine that utilizes this. It has overlay film where it first lays down the yellow colors, then it lays down the blue, and then it lays down the, or not the blue, but the cyan, and then the magenta. And it combined together makes prints. So most computer programs will allow you to select between the two, such as Illustrator. You can choose whether you want to set up your page using this type of color or with the red, green, and blue. Next, we're going to look a little bit at contrast. Contrast has to do with readability. As I read and researched more about it, I talked about web content accessibility guidelines, basically meaning what type of colors are good for people who are handicapped, who are visually impaired. What can they see and what can't they see? And I found a couple of kind of cool tools that deal with that. One is referred to in our article, and then as the Snooks color tool, but there's also one that Hewlett-Packard puts out, that color contrast verification tool, and it talks about the settings and what kind of contrast level it has, and it shows even on this indicator in this tool what the compliance level would be if you're designing to make sure that it's handicap accessible. Then there's another tool that I like that I just brought onto the screen called ColorCop. ColorCop shows you the colors in red, green, and blue, the color numbers, and sometimes paint stores use these when they're mixing paint, and when you want to go back and get the same color, those are the colors they'll enter into their computer. Then there's a hexa number that represents the color, and these are the numbers that happen to be for white. There's also numbers for black. You can see that's 6 zeros. The hex number is always 6 digits. And then 0, which I guess 0 would be the lack of all light. So when these numbers are plugged in, the black in the foreground and the white in the background, and you check the contrast, it gives a 21:1 ratio, which is actually very good, and it's in the compliance level. Now, if you went with some, let's just kind of change up colors here a little bit. We'll go with this background color here, CCFF33, and the foreground color, let's pick something that we think is going to be really bad, and that's this one here. F33. Let's see. So let's move this over here. As you can see, when I was making my mistakes over there, that as you put in the codes, it changes the color here. So we check for contrast, and as it says here, not compliant. It's very hard to read. So if you're unsure about how your colors will mix together, you can use some kind of tool like this and see how that would work. So if we come back here with the foreground color, regardless of what that background color is, and check that, we're not 21:1 like in the other one, but it is compliant. It has functional performance, and it would depend on what you're using that for. So anyway, there's a lot of fun that can be done with playing with these tools. You can find ColorCop by just going to a search and bringing that up, and it's a web page thing, so it's not downloaded. It just kind of sits there. So now we want to go back to our last topic, and that's the emotion of color. And what we select for color gives different emotions. As I look at this, back in the 70s, got married in 76, and very popular at that time was the color for tuxedos, about this color right here, this kind of blue. And as I look back at the wedding pictures, it looks kind of weird and kind of freaky. But when you look at least this person's definition of blue, and this was taken from a Choosing Your Wedding Colors website: calmness, peace, love, honesty, peace, kindness, truth, inner peace, emotion, depth, and devotion. Excellent things when you're going into a wedding. Green, balance, love, harmony. There's some other colors can cause all kinds of emotions to different people. Besides this in red, physical energy, stamina, grounding. There's also the emergency vehicles are generally in red. Power, also red is passion, gets people going. That's why we don't see schoolrooms painted in red. Negative connotations of red are anger and aggressiveness. You move to orange. You have the idea of it's kind of a cheerful color. It's not as aggressive as red, but it can have some of the same qualities. It can then yellow. Happiness, intelligence, joy, brightness are some that are listed besides the ones that are on the screen. And we go back to green, kind of a healing property. One source suggested that hospitals use green. Green is also the color of money, which indicates greed and jealousy to some people. And then, going back to blue, peace, calming color. Also, the negatives could be cold and depression, loneliness, passive. Purple is a color that's, when you see it, you think of royalty, luxury, wealth, also maybe magical. But then purples can also engender kind of a feeling of gloominess and sadness, depending on how it's used. So we need to look really closely at all of these things as we look at our colors, and make sure that we choose colors that are appropriate for the site that we're promoting. That if the colors are wrong, all of our information could be wrong just because of our choice of colors. So this is just kind of a summary, a brief summary of how color affects what we're doing, and I think if we pay attention to it, we can be very successful in our designs.